Okay, I'm surprised that I could wait till part two to say this. I went ahead and gave you Kiva, which is my favorite thing in the world. But part two of Casa School Masterclass is how in the world do you make food appear magically when you're in charge of everything? How do you do the food element? And what's my daily flow? What's the daily flow of how we do things? This is a gigantic different way of thinking, okay? I love public school. I thrived in it. Some of my best friends in the universe still are from public school. I love the teachers I met. But one of the things it kind of teaches you is to compartmentalize learning from life. And so you start thinking that, you know, your food is just made for you and your home is just cared for, and going to the grocery store, that's just done when you're not around. You're at school, someone else is doing that. You start to think that those essential elements of life, like caring for your home and actually having your hands into sanctifying your home by cleaning it, that's not part of your life because you're doing something more important. You're learning. So one of the biggest things that I have had to shift in my mind is the fact that all of those elements of life are learning, which might sound stupid, but we really have gotten a huge separation from the skills that enable us to survive as a species from what's being taught in school. And there's tons of teachers and administrators that feel this way as well, especially because I grew up in North Carolina and I was surrounded by agricultural land and families that have been farmers for generation after generation after generation after generation. And their skills that are incredible and that take generations of learning aren't being shared. So this is my bigger message for how to deal with the food preparation with homeschool. Realize it is homeschool. Your kids need to know how to cook. You should not have a third grader that cannot prepare a basic meal for themselves. Because first of all, they love cooking. Don't you remember when they were 1 or 2 and they were pulling on your skirt and trying to get up there on the counter to cook? I don't wear skirts in the kitchen. I don't know why I just said that, but they love to be a part of this. My 2-year-old right now, her favorite thing in the morning is to wake me up and say blueberries, because she wants to make blueberry muffins, because we do that once or twice a day. Not a day, a week. And this is something that they crave, this time with you making things. The stirring, the scooping, it has this rhythm that's timeless, that's existed since we were all cave people. So don't remove food preparation from homeschool. Don't pretend like that they're not learning there. But you say, yeah, Erin, but what are the resources? And here's one of my resources, okay? So if you want to throw a little bit of money at it, we really love this resource. It's called Radish. And we started this when my 10-year-old was 6 because she asked for one of her primary homeschool subjects to be cooking. And I wanted to have a curriculum because it didn't seem real enough for me, right? It didn't seem real enough to be cooking. It's home ec-y and, oh, we're scientists, we're not home ec-ticians. So I got Radish. It costs money. It's one of these subscription things that come once a month in a box, which is really nice. Kids like getting mail. But I'm in general trying to give you open source items that don't cost money. I really love the fact that every box that comes includes a device to use in the kitchen, it includes vocabulary, it includes a theme, which is often an international theme, and it includes these cards for table conversations. It's thoughtfully prepared, and it is centered on creating tighter knit families and creating meals that are made with love. So I think it's valuable. We got it for a year and we still use these Radish boxes. So inside of the box, you have 3 or 5 different meal cards that teach you with images how to prepare the meals. And they're delicious. They're homemade gnocchi and, of course, pizzas and spaghettis and Asian salads. They had some great varieties. So if you'd really like a curriculum, your kids would enjoy this, I would recommend Radish. We really enjoyed it. It's too young once you get to about 10 or 11 years old. And so the next thing that I want to show you is this book. It's called Extending the Table. When they're about 10, this is what we move to. Extending the Table is a book that was based on this other book that was Living More with Less, that was done by Doris Longacre. It's all about the abundance of food that is present in our world and how unequal that's distributed, it does have an undertone of the fact that we need to recognize the abundance we have and do more than just be grateful, but also give back. But then what it does that's brilliant is it shares these basic recipes that you can typically prepare less than $1, that people around the world are preparing, and shares just how delicious they are. So for us, we often are choosing a different region of the world for a week, and we will make food from that region of the world and take note of the different herbs that are being used. We combine that with an herbalism course, so we're learning about how those specific herbs help with anti-inflammation or with attention span increasing. We'll often connect all of those dots. But it's just a great cookbook in and of itself. We use this when extending the table more than the other. It's a newer edition. But it shows how on a very small amount of money a day, you can truly create an abundant palate. I want to read something that the author said here. You can enjoy the gifts of the people from Argentina, Bangladesh, Yugoslavia, and Zambia. The stories and recipes help us enter into the lives and situations of these people and to be changed by them in significant ways. Food is a medium of communication, but it is more in a mysterious way. It is part of the message, as Jesus so vividly portrayed in the breaking of bread and distribution of the cup. I love the idea of having our kids be connected to their food. We spend a lot of time going to farms and volunteering on farms. Not just food farms, also flower farms, a willow farm. We've done quite a few different farms because I want them to be connected to the agriculture component of our nation that is dying off. The average age of the farmer in the United States is 67 or 68. And this is part of that conversation for us. It's the fact that we can make choices that bless other people's lives when we don't suffer at all. Like, these are delicious meals here. So there's no suffering that's had. It's only an abundance of experience. So this is something that we cook out of. Another thing that we've done, especially during the pandemic, is learn how to prepare food so we don't have to buy it. Just because, you know, it turns out there was a shortage of milk. So we did start making our own milk. We prefer cashew milk. Almond milk and oat milk is quite good too. It's gotta be a little bit tricky with the oat milk so it doesn't feel sticky. But we decided we wanted to have some skills. You know, we all hit that moment where it was like, well, is it just the toilet paper that's gonna go, or is everything gonna disappear? And we put in a garden and we learned how to make sourdough from scratch because there often wasn't bread. And I am gluten intolerant, but sourdough is something that I can eat. There was never any gluten-free bread. There's already not much there anyhow. So when you have a moment like pandemic, you know, you embrace that. You cancel what your plan was because you want your kids to be studying things that are relevant. Food is relevant. You have their attention when they're hungry. When they are smelling what's going on and they're excited to eat it, they are present, they are there. So I would really encourage you, when you are worrying about how to do this balance of creating meals, realize that the problem is the solution. The problem is that meals need to be created. The solution is that meals need to be created, and that is your curricula for that hour. It is not a separation out of what is needful to pass SOLs. It is an inclusion of what is needed to pass life. So that's my answer to food.